Have you ever felt like your body just isn't listening to you the way it used to? You get up in the morning, and something just feels different. Not broken. Not sick. Just slower. You used to walk up those stairs with no trouble. Now you pause halfway, pretending you're admiring the view, when really, you're catching your breath. Maybe your hands ache when you open a jar. Maybe your thoughts take a little longer to gather. Maybe the fire in your belly, the one that made you feel strong, clear-headed, alive, just isn't there like it used to be. If you're a man over 70, or love someone who is, you know what I'm talking about. That quiet moment when you start wondering, is this just aging? Is this the new normal? Is this it? But what if I told you that one tiny spice, something you probably already have in your kitchen, might help turn that story around? And no, I'm not talking about some miracle cure, some overhyped pill, or another ad promising what it can't deliver. I'm talking about something real. Something simple. Something that's been quietly used for centuries to support the very things most older men crave: more energy, sharper focus, better circulation, and even a bit more spark where it counts. Because here's the truth no one says out loud: for men over 70, life doesn't have to shrink. It doesn't have to become a slow fade into the background. You still matter. Your vitality matters. And maintaining your strength, your clarity, your confidence, that's not about vanity. That's about dignity. And sometimes, the answer doesn't come in a prescription bottle or a hospital room. Sometimes, it's hidden in plain sight, sitting quietly on your spice rack, waiting for you to remember its power. In today's video, we're going to explore that one powerful spice. And why men over 70 are turning to it for more than just flavor. We'll talk about how it works in the body, why it's been used for generations, and how it might just support better blood flow, clearer thinking, reduced aches, and yes, even intimacy. And the best part? You don't need to be a doctor to understand how it works. Just a man who still wants to feel like himself. But first, tell me in the comments, have you ever tried using spices to help your health? Ever added something to your routine that actually made a difference? And hey, if you're new here, welcome. Hit that subscribe button and join us here at Senior Care HQ, where we share powerful, down-to-earth tips to help you age with strength, wisdom, and purpose. Alright. Let's talk about this spice, and why it might just change everything. Let me introduce you to George. He's 74 years old. Spent most of his life working with his hands. Building homes, fixing fences, shaping wood into something that lasts. But these days, it wasn't the hammer giving him trouble. It was his own body. Just walking up his driveway, a driveway he built himself years ago, had become a task. One flight of steps left him breathless. His legs felt heavy. His chest tight. Not in a sharp, scary way, just dull. Constant. Tiring. His doctor. He said, "Well, George, you're not 40 anymore." And George accepted that, for a while. Until one morning, over breakfast, his wife stirred a little yellow powder into his tea. She said her grandmother used it back in the day, called it nature's remedy. George didn't think much of it. But after a few weeks, he noticed something. The stairs didn't seem quite so steep. His hands weren't as cold. And his afternoon naps didn't feel like survival, they felt optional. What changed? Well, this spice. It's called turmeric. And buried in its golden color is a compound called curcumin. A natural anti-inflammatory powerhouse. As we age, especially after 70, our blood vessels stiffen. Circulation slows. Tiny inflammations build up in the body without making a sound. They don't cause pain, not right away. But they slowly tighten blood flow, raise blood pressure, and strain the heart. And for men, good circulation isn't just about the heart. It's about stamina, energy, And yes, sexual health too. Turmeric helps by relaxing blood vessels, improving flow, and easing that internal fire we don't even know is burning. It's like oiling the engine instead of replacing the whole car. Now, a lot of folks think that heart trouble is just a natural part of aging. Something you can't change. But that's only part of the story. In many cases, it's not just age, it's chronic, silent inflammation that slowly closes the doors inside your body. And turmeric? It gently pushes those doors back open. So how do you start? Simple. Boil some water. Stir in half a teaspoon of turmeric. Add a crack of black pepper, that's important, it helps your body absorb the curcumin. Maybe a bit of honey if you like it sweet. That's it. No side effects. No big expense. Just one warm cup, once a day. You don't need to overhaul your life. You just need to invite this little habit in. And the heart? It notices. But the heart isn't the only part of the body that listens to turmeric. Let's talk about something just as vital, your brain. Now, let's talk about the mind. Because what good is a strong heart if the memory starts to slip away? Let me tell you about Robert. He's 78. A proud grandfather of 5. Sharp-witted. Storyteller. The kind of guy who never missed a birthday, never forgot a face. But lately, things had started to change. It began with the small stuff. Misplacing his keys. Forgetting his neighbor's name. Missing an appointment here and there. Even though he swore he wrote it down. At first, he laughed it off. Called it senior moments. But deep down, it scared him. Because Robert had watched his own father slip into the fog of dementia years ago. And he was terrified he might be walking the same path. His daughter noticed. She didn't push. She just brought over a jar one afternoon, same golden spice we talked about earlier. Turmeric. She said, "Dad, let's try this together." No pressure. Just sprinkle it in your oatmeal in the mornings. And you know what? He did. Every morning with breakfast. He even started adding it to soup. Did a crossword puzzle afterward. Just a little routine. And over the months, something shifted. The fog didn't disappear overnight, but it stopped creeping in. He started remembering appointments again. Started telling stories without losing track halfway through. Now, to be clear, turmeric isn't magic. But what it is powerful. It contains natural compounds that are neuroprotective, which simply means they help guard your brain cells from damage. They fight oxidative stress, reduce inflammation in the brain, and support healthy blood flow to areas tied to memory and focus. As we age, our brain becomes more vulnerable to wear and tear. But that decline isn't a guarantee. It's not automatic. And it's not irreversible. See, one of the biggest myths we've been fed is that forgetting things is just part of getting old. But what if it isn't? What if the brain, like the body, just needs the right fuel? The right environment to stay sharp? Turmeric offers that support. It helps protect the connections between your brain cells, keeping your thoughts clearer, your memory stronger, and your sense of self intact. So how do you use it? You don't need to complicate it. Try a pinch stirred into plain yogurt with a drizzle of honey. Or into a bowl of warm oatmeal. Pair it with simple brain activities. A crossword, a puzzle, a walk while listening to music you love. It's not about reversing time. It's about slowing the clock, just enough to stay present. To hold on to names. Faces. Moments that matter. Because your memories, they're not just facts and dates. They're the stories that built your life. And they're worth protecting. Now, let's shift gears. Because there's something else turmeric can do that most men overlook, until it starts to really affect their day-to-day comfort. Let's talk about digestion. That bloated, uncomfortable feeling you've probably just learned to deal with. It doesn't have to be part of aging. Not anymore. Let's be honest, digestion isn't exactly the most glamorous topic. But when it's not working right, everything feels off. You eat a meal, and instead of feeling satisfied, you feel sluggish, heavy, bloated. Maybe even a little embarrassed by how often your stomach rumbles or how irregular things have become. You chalk it up to age. Just the way things are now. But what if it didn't have to be? What if something as small as a spoonful of golden powder could help settle that uncomfortable feeling, before it even begins? See, as we age, our digestive fire naturally slows down. The stomach produces less acid. The liver makes less bile. And the gut? It gets a little sleepy. Food moves slower. Nutrients aren't absorbed as well. Constipation, gas, bloating, they all creep in quietly, day by day. Until eventually, meals feel like a chore. Or worse, something you avoid. But that same spice we've been talking about, turmeric, has long been used in traditional medicine to wake up the digestive system. It helps stimulate bile production, which is essential for breaking down fats. It soothes the lining of the gut. It calms irritation and helps things keep moving, naturally. And here's the part most people miss: when your digestion improves, so does everything else. Energy. Clarity. Even your immune system. Because poor digestion doesn't just stay in the stomach. It affects your whole body, especially when nutrients aren't being absorbed properly. But sadly, many seniors just accept that bathroom problems are part of growing old. They think it's normal to feel bloated after every meal or to go days without a proper movement. It's not normal. It's common, but it's not necessary. So what can you do? Start small. Sprinkle turmeric over cooked vegetables at dinner. Or stir it into warm milk before bed, a calming, soothing ritual that supports your gut overnight. Again, don't forget the black pepper. Just a pinch boosts turmeric's absorption, helping it work where it matters most. No fancy tricks. Just real food, real comfort, real results. And while a calm stomach is a blessing on its own, there's something even deeper going on behind the scenes. Something that affects not just your digestion, but your joints, your energy, and even your mood. Let's talk about inflammation, one of the biggest silent enemies in aging. And how this spice fights it at the root. Meet John. John's 72. He's got a garden that could make anyone jealous: rows of tomatoes, fresh herbs, little stone paths between flower beds. It's his pride and joy. But over the last couple years, that joy started to fade. His knees cracked every time he knelt down. His fingers, once steady and strong, had started to stiffen. Some days, he'd wake up and wonder if he could even hold the trowel. Doctors gave him pain meds. They worked, for a while. But the stiffness always came back. He didn't want to rely on pills forever. He wanted something gentler. Something sustainable. That's when he heard about turmeric, not as a spice, but as an anti-inflammatory tool. So, he made a simple change. Started adding it to his lunch, rice dishes, soups, even scrambled eggs. Every single day. And over time, he noticed something. His fingers didn't feel like rusted hinges in the morning. His knees didn't bark every time he bent down. He still had some aches, because, let's be real, he's 72. But it wasn't stopping him anymore. He was back in the garden. Smiling. Here's why it works: turmeric contains curcumin, which targets chronic inflammation, the slow, simmering kind that causes pain and joint damage over years. See, arthritis and joint stiffness aren't just old age problems. They're inflammation problems. And while most people reach for painkillers to mask the pain, they don't address the root cause. Diet-based inflammation control. That's the quiet hero in healthy aging. Turmeric calms that internal fire. And when it's absorbed properly, with a little fat or black pepper, it gets to work in the joints, easing discomfort and restoring mobility. So here's what you can try: add turmeric to your soup. Stir it into your rice or sprinkle it on roasted veggies. Use a bit of black pepper every time. And give it time. Let it build up and do its job. You're not trying to be 40 again. You're just trying to keep doing what you love, without pain stopping you in your tracks. And now, let's talk about something that most men don't say out loud. Something deeply personal. But incredibly important. Let's talk about male confidence, and what happens to intimacy and vitality as the years go by. Because this spice may have one more gift to offer, and it's not just about health. It's about connection. Let's talk about something that doesn't get talked about nearly enough: male vitality. And I don't just mean energy during the day. I mean how a man feels in his body. His confidence. His sense of self. His connection with others, and with himself. Now, I want you to meet Michael. He's 76. A widower. Soft-spoken, kind-hearted. He worked hard all his life, raised a family, paid off his home. But after his wife passed, something inside him just shut down. His energy dropped. His sleep was restless. He had little appetite for food, for conversation, for life. And intimacy? He didn't even think about it anymore. Not because he didn't care, because he figured those days were just done. That's how he put it. I'm too old for that now. But one day, while out walking with a neighbor, another gentleman in his 70s, he heard about something new. Or rather, something old. His friend mentioned he'd started adding turmeric to his daily routine. He said it made him feel not younger exactly, but more alive. More himself. So Michael gave it a shot. He started simple. Just a bit in his morning tea. Then later, a little in his smoothie. He didn't expect much. But after a few weeks, something changed. He was sleeping deeper. Waking up clearer. He found himself smiling again, flirting a little, even. He started going out more. Not to chase anything, just to feel part of the world again. And slowly, quietly, he began to feel like a man again. See, here's what most people don't understand: intimacy and vitality don't fade because of age alone. They fade because of hormonal shifts, poor circulation, and emotional disconnect. And turmeric, this tiny, golden powerhouse, supports two of the biggest keys to male vitality: balanced testosterone levels. Healthy blood flow. Curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, has been shown to reduce oxidative stress that interferes with hormone production. It also boosts nitric oxide levels, which naturally supports better circulation, especially where it matters. And let's be honest, when a man feels confident in his body, when his blood is flowing, when his energy is rising, he carries himself differently. He lives differently. But here's the tragedy: most men over 70 think it's too late. They accept the slow fade as something permanent. But it's not. What's been lost can often be reignited. Not overnight. Not with magic. But with consistency. With care. So, what can you do? Start small. Just like Michael. Add turmeric to a morning smoothie. Or stir a teaspoon into warm tea or milk, maybe with a touch of cinnamon. Make it a ritual. A sign that you haven't given up on yourself. Because you haven't. And you don't need to. Now, let's take a moment. Let's look back at what we've covered. Because you've just learned 5 powerful ways that this tiny, humble spice could truly transform life for men over 70. And that's not hype. That's nature. That's evidence. That's hope. Let's recap, and then I'll leave you with something to hold on to. Something that might just change your path forward, starting today. Let's pause for a second. Because underneath all these facts, all the science, all the practical advice, there's something deeper going on. Something that every man over 70, and everyone who loves him, feels but rarely says out loud. Aging can be hard. Not just on the body, but on the heart. The spirit. Watching yourself slow down. Not being able to do what you used to. Feeling like your world is getting smaller, that's not just physical. That's emotional. Maybe you've looked in the mirror and wondered where the fire went. Or maybe you've watched your father, your brother, your partner, fade a little each year. And you didn't know what to say. Because it's not just about aches or forgetfulness or needing a nap in the middle of the day. It's about losing parts of yourself, piece by piece. It's about fearing that you've passed some invisible point of no return. It's about wondering if this is just how it's going to be now. And I want to tell you something you might not have heard in a while. It doesn't have to be. Aging doesn't mean fading. It doesn't mean you stop mattering. And it sure as hell doesn't mean you stop fighting for your life. Because knowledge is power. And sometimes, it's the smallest pieces of knowledge, the quietest changes, that make the biggest difference. This spice we've been talking about. It's not just turmeric. It's not just something yellow on your shelf. It's a symbol of how natural wisdom, simple routines, and consistency can help restore the parts of you that feel like they've slipped away. Energy. Clarity. Comfort. Confidence. So here's my challenge to you, get up. Walk to your kitchen. Open the cupboard. Look for that little jar of turmeric. If you don't have it, pick some up next time you're at the store. But don't let today pass without doing something. Make that cup of warm turmeric tea. Sprinkle it over your vegetables. Stir it into your oatmeal. Call a loved one and say, "Hey, I learned something today. Let's try this together." Because you can do something. You can take a step. You can start to feel better, not tomorrow, not next year, but now. And listen. If you've felt discouraged lately, if the road ahead feels uncertain, let me remind you, you're still here. You're still capable. And you're more powerful than you've been led to believe. Aging isn't about decline. It's about getting wiser. Getting sharper. Learning how to treat your body with the same care you've given others all your life. This is your time to live well. To live smart. To live fully, even in your golden years. And it starts with something as simple as a spoonful of spice. Let's carry that forward. Because this journey, it's not over. Not even close. So, let's take a moment to look back at what we've walked through together today. We talked about one small, golden spice, turmeric, and the 5 powerful ways it can make a real difference in your life, especially if you're over 70. We started with the heart, because good circulation and heart health are the foundation of everything else. Then we moved to the mind, how this spice helps support memory, focus, and that sharpness we all want to keep. We looked at digestion. How that bloated, sluggish feeling doesn't have to be your norm. We talked about inflammation and joint relief, getting back the ease of movement you thought was lost. And finally, we went deep into the topic of male vitality, confidence, and how you can still feel like you again. All that, from one little spoonful a day. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever added turmeric or maybe cinnamon, ginger, or another spice to your routine for health reasons? Did it help you feel better? Sleep deeper? Move more easily? Your story, no matter how small, might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. So scroll down and share it in the comments. Tell us what worked, what didn't, what you're curious about. This is a community, and your voice matters here. And if today's video gave you something to think about, if it brought you a little bit of hope, or a new idea, go ahead and give it a like. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Senior Care HQ. We share weekly tips, stories, and simple strategies to help you age with strength, purpose, and dignity. This isn't about chasing youth, it's about protecting your health, your independence, and your joy. And as always, thank you for being here. You're not alone in this. You're part of something bigger. A movement of men and women who are choosing to age smart. To age strong. To age awake. So until next time, stay strong. Stay kind. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care.